one of the classroom traditions that we do over there. You want, for example, your students want to know you, they want to meet you before they, so that they can be prepared to know what they want to get from you. So I am not a stranger to many of you here, and I'm not a stranger to Nigeria. I was born, bred, and buttered in Nigeria, and even schooled in Nigeria. So if you are schooling here and you think, oh, no, it doesn't matter. Your Nigerian education, don't really pull it. We have equality. It's the infrastructure that we don't have. We have the brain, we have everything. With your determination, there is no way you can't reach. So, I have my bachelor's, master's, and PhD degrees in Nigeria universities. Though I had the privilege of traveling abroad during my PhD for part of the studies and everything. Then since then, I've also been a lecturer in Nigeria, both at the Nambia University in Oka and also the University of Ibadan in Nigeria. Ibadan, the first and the best, right? Great UI. Excellent. So, and then I also have some experience and collaborations and research and connections, schooling, tutoring, scholarship, and so on in other universities around the world, like the Wentworth University in United Kingdom, University of British Columbia, that's at the Center for Computational Intelligence there in Canada, and the University of Pittsburgh School of Information Science, Northeastern University, where I did 2 years postdoc before I joined the Wentworth Institute of Technology as an associate professor. If you want to know more about Wentworth Institute of Technology and what we do, you will find our flyers, you will find even the packets that you have already said it all. We have a packet that I've gone around to in-person participants. And for our electronic participants, if one of the facilitators can just share the website on the chat window, if you want to know more about our campus, and feel free also to reach out to me and I will connect you with the right people to talk to. I'm not an administrator, so I don't want to give you information that is not right, but I will definitely connect you with the right people that will give you the information. I always tell people, this is not why we're here, but I know some people have been asking these questions behind the scene. So I always tell people, you don't need an agent. You are even more educated than many of the agents you run to. What you need is internet. And with internet, you can do better than the agents. So please, spend your money wisely. Save it for your tuition if you want to school abroad. Because everything you need is already on the internet. So, if you want to know some more about things I do and what I've received, I'm not a private person in that respect. My profile, my LinkedIn, and everything is out there. When you search my name, Yetunde Folajimi, you will find that there is only one person bearing that name. These are classes that I either am teaching or currently teach at Wentworth. I think this is somehow obsolete, but recently we also started the game design program, and I teach some new courses that we are teaching on that program. The game design minor, and I teach some courses on that program, which include AI for gaming, and we're also starting a virtual reality course very soon. So, that should be for 2025. So I also teach natural language processing, and anyway, you can also find out on our university portal to know more about all those. Now, the workshop materials for this workshop, I believe they must have been shared on WhatsApp, through the WhatsApp group. So if you go on the link, you will find it. And like I said, if you need help, just get it from one of the, if you are remote, get it from one of the facilitators there. If you're in person, just ask. So we will start with AI, because AI is the backbone, the spine of what we're going to be learning in the next 2 days. And I mean, I will make it open-ended. So what I just want to say is that we'll go back again to menti.com. We'll go back again to menti.com. Someone is saying the sound on the mic seems to be unclear. And is asking admin to check out, please. The mic is right here. Can you hear it clearly, more clearly now? I mean from online. Are you hearing me better now, or is still not clear?
Yes.
Now
Yeah,
they
we
are
can hear you clearly,
probably the
loud
hall.
and clear.
Yeah,
In the
audible.
hall. Huh?
This
Oh,
is
very
audible.
Loud and clear.
Is it
It's
because it's
clear.
too loud?
Yes, loud and clear.
Maybe I will not put it too close to my mouth. So how about now?
Very clear.
How about now? No,
This is better now. Good.
Okay, I think they can hear it better now.
Yes,
I mean, it's good now. It's probably because it's very close to my mouth. So I'm just going to put it somewhere not. And can you also hear me right here in the venue? So let's go again to menti.com and so what comes to your mind? No, let's see. What comes to your mind when you think of artificial intelligence? Menti.com and use code 7627-4202. Log into Menti.com. You don't need to log in, just go to that website, it asks you for code. Okay. Menti.com and use code 7627-4202. Are we there? Type what comes into your mind. Is it available? Okay. The responses are coming up now. If you don't see your response there, it means you've not typed something. Okay, well, that's just going to be going on for 1 minute. We have only 28 responses. There are more than 100 of us, both in Zoom and that's not even 25% of the people here. Is it data? Okay. I guess I will move to the next question. Okay, more responses are coming in now. Once we get to like 50%, I will move to the next question. I think what is prominent now, based on what comes to people's mind, is the word learn. That means they want to learn artificial intelligence. There is also data, there is science. 68 responses, that's good. Okay, Ruth okay is raising hand.
Please,
Can you unmute to ask your question?
thank you, ma'am. I didn't get the name of the site we were asked to go to register our response.
Okay. So
I got the code. I didn't get the name of
let's
the
go
site.
to the next question.
Go to menti.com. It's on the chat box.
All right, thank you very much. You can still keep on putting in your words there. Let's go to the next question. And what comes to your mind when you think of large language models? What comes to your mind when you think of large language models? And if nothing comes to your mind, just type nothing. ChatGPT. That's like a selling point. Okay, let's keep on. Let the messages keep rolling in. Once it's like 50-something%, then we'll move to the next question. Click something. Somebody to click. I mean, it doesn't shouldn't be too close to me. All right, great. 78 responses. That's amazing. So let's go to the. Thank you very much, Najibulai. Just put it on menti.com, not on public chat. Yes, thank you. Okay. Right. Next thing is and the last one. What comes to your mind? No. Not updating. Okay, what comes to your mind when you think of prompt engineering? Prompt engineering. At least we must have grabbed some pointers from the DG's presentation this morning. That's just 24 responses. We need like 50% of the responses. So we can move on to the business. That's just 43, now 44. All right. So we'll come back. We'll come back to that. We'll come back to that. And thank you very much for all the pointers. But we still have more mentee to do. So that's just a warm-up exercise. But so it's apparently the audience that we have here. You are not novice at all. And I believe that learning is a two-sided thing. So I'm not just here to teach. I'm also here to learn. And I know I'm going to learn a lot from all those contributions that you have made. One thing we know about AI is that it is artificial. Okay. I don't want to get too close because I don't need feedback here. So it is artificial. So which means, because we call it artificial intelligence, right? For example, if I ask you what is defined artificial, you can tell, you have the right to tell me the definition of artificial is anything that is artificial, right? So because it's artificial intelligence, then we know it's artificial. So which means if we say something is artificial, then it means it's not real, right? So which means it's something that it's human that have make it to happen, right? It has make it happen. That is, it is not original. You can have artificial flower that is a plastic version of the actual flower that grow from the soil. You can have artificial, what do they call it now? Artificial surgery to make yourself more beautiful. That means that's not what you came with, right? Actually, you change it. So whenever something is not original, it is artificial. It's not like natural. So artificial is the creation of man, and that is what artificial intelligence leverage on. So when we now bring the two, artificial and intelligence, we're looking at intelligence. When I say somebody is intelligent, right? For example, let's say, if I say, get out of this room, right? If I say, okay, get out of this room, and then there is a door by my right, and it jumps out through the window. Did he get out or not? Yes or no? He got out, right? He did what I asked him to do. But did he do it intelligently? Did he apply intelligence? So which means in artificial intelligence, it's not just about solving problems, because in the computer world, computer science, machine learning, everything, all we are doing, even medical doctors, whatever profession, all we are doing is to make this world better, to make your life better by solving the problems that are in this world, right? So when you solve it, and So which means the goal of artificial intelligence is not just to solve those problems, but to solve it in a way by which by the time you are finished solving it, people will say you have applied intelligence, right? Okay, let me ask another question. Assuming I say, get out of this room, right? And there is fire, God forbid, on all the doors in this room. I mean, on all the doors, the exit way in this room. And there is a window. And it jumps out of the window. Will we say it's intelligent or not intelligent? It's intelligent. If he walks through the fire, and because he wants to go out of this room and he wants to go through the right protocol, will we say it's intelligence? Now he's solving the problem, but he's not applying intelligence. So there are so many factors in the world that can alter, that are not static. So because of that, when we look at artificial, human being, we always make a way. We always produce something. There are places in modern buildings where they will say, this is fire exit, this is exit, right? Common sense will tell you that you take natural exit when you want to exit. But when there is an emergency, you have every right to break protocol and go through the fire exit. And that is why the backup is there. So in artificial intelligence, we always want to make provision for something that will always be a way, even if it is the wrong way, right? That will always be a way to solve our problem so that by the time we solve it, we will say we have applied intelligence, right? So study of ideas, things that will now make, because it is not you that is going to solve it. If you have a chip embedded in your brain, you have had like an artificial brain embedded in you, right? To make things better, to make your life, it might be like maybe for your mobility, maybe for your thinking, maybe for your speaking, for your hearing, whatever it is. But you are saying you are using computer because computer is eventually the enabler of that artificial intelligence. So that in computer science, that aspect of it, so that we design all these systems and make all these systems so that these systems are able to exhibit, to think, to do things the way human beings will do them. So that's what we think about when we think about artificial intelligence. I didn't actually plan for all of this lecture, but when I saw the audience, right, I want to make sure that I carry everybody along from the beginning. So pardon me if you feel I'm boring, right? But I want to make sure that everybody benefits from this training. And so we also looked at prompt engineering, right? Now, let's take it a step further because now the era of AI is what everybody is booming in AI now. It's booming everywhere. Everyone wants to dive into it and everything. Nobody is even talking about computer science anymore, right? But we know that AI leverages on not only computer science, it leverages on so many fields, cognitive science, natural language processing, philosophy, and so many things that it leverages on. So now, the level we are now, right? And I'm impressed by what I got in terms of our initial survey, whereby I know everybody already is aware there is something called prompt engineering. You may not be really big on it, but you know there is prompt engineering, there is something called large language models and everything. So now, when we are looking at prompt engineering, because the talk that, the training that we're having this afternoon is prompt engineering for conversational AI, right? So we want to look at prompt engineering. That is, what is this prompt engineering about? Since we know we are trying to create artificial things that are able to solve problems to help us live our life better. And so in terms of prompt engineering, it's actually it's leveraging on so many things. We've had a little bit in the morning. Leveraging on neural network, right? Leveraging on language itself. And when we look at neural network, it's really big. It's not what we're going to be talking about right now, right? So, but now, after all the neural network, which evolved into the transformer architecture, that is the architecture that actually large language model that we're talking about. We hear more about it again from my colleagues. So I will just take a little bit of pieces from it. So now it takes a lot of data as we already know in machine learning, in artificial intelligence, whenever you hear machine learning talking about training, they are not going for any training. They are just sitting in front of their computer, getting data, and telling the computer to help them learn from the, to help itself to learn from the data. So now we need this large quantity of data. Now, if you look at, I want to ask a question, and if you are online, you can also unmute, right? Because you are part of this. Let's see, like everybody is connected as one. So I want to de-emphasize chat as much as possible. Don't chat, don't be silent. Don't let your voice be silent. Just unmute and talk. So now, in terms of, I want to say, okay, if there's anybody here, if you can tell me the day you started talking, right? If you know when you actually started talking and what was your first word or your first sentence. At least the week. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I mean, from the first day, well, I like that, communicating. Yeah, but at least, sir, you speak Yoruba or English, I mean, Igbo, Hausa, English. Sir? Which one? I can't. Sir? I can't. You can't speak. I said, do you speak English, Yoruba, Hausa, or which? Okay, you speak Yoruba. Okay, let me put it more straightforwardly. Can you remind yourself of the day you started speaking Yoruba and the sentence you spoke? Or at least the week or the common sentences you were speaking. Okay, at least, okay, let's fast forward. Let's fast track. Maybe somebody will remember who taught you how to speak Yoruba. Who was your teacher that said, sit down, this is how to speak, maybe because we know, maybe we are saying Yoruba because we are in Lagos, and Lagos is southwest Nigeria, which is Yoruba, which is the language, the indigenous language in the southwest Nigeria. Now, if anyone can just tell me who taught you how to speak Yoruba language, if you are Yoruba here. Huh? Can you say that, sir? Excellent. Nobody taught you. You are your teacher. It's not, the credit doesn't go to your IBD teacher or Alawiye book, right? You might maybe have education, just like you learn French. You go to school to learn that. But when it becomes your mother tongue, your language, what you pick and you speak, right? No teacher can teach you. No dictionary can teach you. And so the same thing about when we look at telling the computers to learn, to understand how to do things. You cannot really say this is the protocol, this is the algorithm, or this is how, like, do this, do that, or do this, do that. When you start working, you just see yourself working. Nobody tells you left, right. You just, and then first time you start falling down and everything. Before you know it, you figure it out. Your parents cannot even teach you. You just figure it out, right? So now, when we now look at, let's now bring it home to prompt engineering. We want to find a way by which we won't come as human beings. We will agree that the world is not so complex that information is just too much. You cannot even retain half of what you consume every day, right? So because of that, you need help. And the only help you can only get it from the computer, because the computer already have enough memory. The computer already have enough processor. You don't have to start thinking about, oh, how soon am I going to get this? For example, if I say, okay, before you can earn any degree in any university, at least that I know of in Nigeria, you need 4 years, at least, right? That's give and take, no strike, nothing. You need 4 years, right? So that is a protocol, a procedure you have to go through. And you cannot bypass it because there are things you must learn, which we call prerequisites, before you learn another thing, But when it comes to learning things that are natural, right? Things that are natural, you don't need a formal education. You just need to be exposed to it. Now, when we look at talking, you have a child that is given birth to, and the child is locked in a room. They feed the child very well and everything. They give them food, water, and everything. And then suddenly, the child just begins to grow up in that room. The only communication they have with that child is maybe to bathe the child, to give that child food and everything. And no communication, nothing. Will that child ever talk? The child will never talk. Maybe the child will talk anyway, But in that case, the child would evolve his or her own language. When the child begins to talk like this, just be talking, blah, 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 but they know what they are talking. They have evolved it, right? But they cannot speak what is going on in the environment because there is no environment, right? They have not been exposed to that language. So in prompt engineering, we want to have a way of communicating because no communication means no knowledge, right? And if computer is truly going to help you, if computer is really going to help you to solve problem and make something artificial and make it real, and even do it better than you will do it because you don't have enough time to think. For example, if there is fire at the doors leading to the exit, and you have to take let me not use fire again, right? Because we don't want fire. But right. So let's say you are just going on the highway and you are driving, and then there is a pedestrian crossing, right? And the only place you can, and the only thing you can do is either to hit the pedestrian, right? Or maybe maybe there is a ditch by the right and the left, right? And there is a trailer coming behind you. If you press brake, the trailer is going to like run to you. And you need to just make a split-second decision, right? So what do you think you are going to do? Accelerate. There's a pedestrian before you. Please keep an eye on the charts. So there is a pedestrian before you, there is a trailer running with speed behind you, and there are two ditches on both sides. What do you do? I'm sure nobody can answer that question. Because my answer would be, I won't know what I will do until it happens. I will just do something, right? That makes computer to be better than me. Because computer already, because first of all, I don't pray to ever be exposed to that situation because honestly, you will just do something. You might just lose control because you don't even know what to do, right? But because computer have the ability to be exposed to any training without fear. For example, you can't train me by saying, go and try it on the road first, right? But the computer has that knowledge and ability. So we want to expose, we want to be able to have conversation with this powerful machine, with this machine that is full of brain and full of everything that it already needs, memory, speed, and everything, because it has all the knowledge and the resources. And so we want to be able to communicate and say, please help me to take this decision. Probably there will be an AI in that car that tells you, Yetunde, swerve right. The ditch is not too deep. You are not going to die, you know? Or maybe swerve right. 100 people have entered this ditch in the past. Only one person died, and you are not going to be that person. You know, that kind of thing. Because the AI already knows, and it tells me immediately, right? So, all I just need to do is to ask, okay, maybe the AI is called Alexa. Alexa, what can I do, right? I don't need to bother myself about thinking. And I can trust the judgment because he already has more wisdom, like more knowledge, he already has enough information and experience to tell me what's the right thing to do. Now, the question now brings us to, how will I be able to tell Alexa what I want, right? For example, if I'm like, Alexa, what should I do, right? What should I do has a lot of situation, right? For example, I might be the only child of my parents. If that is the case, I don't want to die, right? or maybe the trailer behind me might even be an illusion. Maybe I was imagining it. Or maybe the distance is still so fast, you know, still so far away, or all those kind of things, right? So sometimes I might be like, Alexa, what should I do? I can have heart attack because I don't have the heart to face this situation. So since Alexa might weigh the option and see like, okay, even if this ditch is not going to kill her, if she should swerve into that ditch, she's going to die of heart attack before she lands, right? And Alexa can just tell me, hey, don't swerve, right? So all of these things depend on what the prompt I'm giving it. So that we want sometimes with all these prompts, we even confuse the AI more, right? If I'm like, what should I do? What should I do could be so many multiple, it should be in in many ways. So the essence of what we want to do now is to be able to craft the output. So that is what prompt engineering is all about. To be able to ask the right questions, to be able to craft the prompt so that we can get a maximum quality. We can get the optimal quality of whatever action, whatever recommendation, whatever the machine learning is going to suggest. I mean, whatever the algorithm is going to suggest or the model. So that now, if we are going to do this, it's important that we understand what's actually going to the AI, right? So that by that, we'll be able to get the right prompt, and instead of complicating situations, because the essence is to solve problems. We don't want to create more problems. So the essence is to solve problems. So now the idea is to now go between user intent. What do I want to do? What do I want to achieve, right? And then get an output. In between the user intent and the output is prompt engineering. That is, I want to be able to engineer what comes into the AI so that eventually what comes out will be the right output for me. The right output for me might not be the right output for the next person beside me, right? It all depends on how well it is crafted, and of course, it largely depends on the model and also depends on the data as well. And we'll talk about that as we go on. So when we give effective prompts to the AI, it's able to do a lot of things, including helping us to answer our question, providing recommendation, for example, in the situation of what shall I do? If you ask it the right way, it's going to be able to give you the effective, it's going to be effective in giving you the solution to your problem. And mostly it will also help you to create engaging conversation in whatever tool, in whatever way you want to use it. You can ask questions, you can ask follow-up questions, you can get help, you can get tutored, learn a concept, learn a new idea, learn how to bake, learn how to cook, learn so many things. So, but when you give poorly designed prompts, then in most cases, it's either you get results that are ambiguous, more headache for you, that is even hard for you to figure it out, or maybe even incorrect responses. And we know what that kind of situation can lead to. It can even be very hazardous in some situations. So there are many areas where this applied, things like a chatbot. We're only going to take a tiny bit of that area in this session. Things like virtual assistants, like Alexa and Siri. If you have the Alexa Amazon device, which people just keep in their homes now to control. You can just say, okay, switch on the TV, switch on the light, switch off the light, check if my children are sleeping, look into my bedroom, on the camera in my living room, switch off the outside lights and all those kind of things. Check the temperature of the refrigerator. So all those things. And also Siri and so on, automated content creation. Many of you, is there anyone here that has not tried ChatGPT, at least? To say, nobody, right? Yeah, we use it a lot now. So even in creating images and so on, audio and all those things. So content creation and also personalized learning assistance. So that whatever you have learned in school as a student, whatever you have learned in a course, in a program, even in this program, right? ChatGPT can beef it up and help you. So, but the main problem now is models can misinterpret big prompts. Prompt is very key to what you feed into the model. And so if you don't give the prompt that the system needs, if you don't give the appropriate prompt, you might eventually get responses that are not well crafted or that are misleading. And so for the purpose of this course, I know everybody has used ChatGPT, right? You have used maybe one LLM or the other to help you answer some questions, right? We want to go to even make things more, to even benefit more from it by going through automating the process. Now, I'm beginning to see a world where coding will be something that will be running behind the scenes, right? Prompting will be the future, like the future. Now we know how many computer science students are here. Computer science, yeah. Now we know LLMs can help you write your program. Don't pretend as if we don't know, right? Because your lecturers are here, right? Listen, that is the future. We can't shy away from it, right? Now, the point is that even the program that the LLM is helping you to write, you can't rely on it, right? First of all, your prompt. And what is your prompt about? Your prompt itself is a kind of algorithm on its own, because you are telling it. You have to think through what you want, because if you don't have an idea about how to solve a problem and you ask ChatGPT to solve it for you, whatever ChatGPT gives you is what you take, right? And when you get what ChatGPT gives you and you submit it to your professor, as you just get this morning, right? Actually, the professor will know that you use ChatGPT, and that is most likely automatic failure, right? Because you don't even know what ChatGPT is giving you, right? So, but if you already know what ChatGPT is giving you, if you're able to craft appropriate prompts, you can tell it again, okay, go to line 80. And this is not what I'm expecting. What do you think? Have ChatGPT as your assistant. And then ChatGPT goes to line 80 and it's like, oh, I'm sorry. I don't know that is what you want. And then it tells you to write it in a better way. That is prompting, giving appropriate prompts. So I'm seeing a future where if you don't know how to prompt, right, you cannot go further, even if you are like the best programmer, right? Because programming will not be like everybody already can write program, because every AI can write program, right? So which means you don't have to be a computer science before you can ask a LLM to write your program. So which means you are taking the right step by really getting to understand what prompt engineering is all about. And it doesn't end there. We are going to be learning how to actually automate it. Because how many prompts are you going to take? How many prompts are you going to give? How do you evaluate whether or not that prompt is okay? So that's what we are learning today in the first phase, understanding Python as the go-to language for automated prompt engineering. And the reason why we are treating like Python is, of course, it is the simplest. Its simplicity is like a right out of the box kind of coding, right? Straight out of the box, because it uses interpreter. So which means there is no need to say compile and all those things. So computer science students here, please don't brag, right? Because so what it does is it's simple. It has extensive library. So if you are not a computer science person here, or you have not had some prior Python experience, don't be scared. You might not be as cool as some of us, right? The rest of us. But I tell you, if you follow carefully what we'll be learning, this will be the time for you to pay attention, because some people will find it boring, right? So this is the time for you to pay attention, because we only need like a couple of minutes for you to be up to speed and have at least what it takes to use prompt engineering with Python. So it has a lot of libraries that are already, especially things like OpenAI, which is bottom line for ChatGPT, NLTK, Pandas, and so on. And of course, the automation that programming offers us, being able to program, being able to test, being able to refine, being able to iterate, loop, and so on, check. And if you now add, can you now imagine you already know how to program? And you can now add that to the ability of prompts. You are going to be the future, right? You are going to build the future for yourself and for the world. And of course, scalability. You can work with large data sets. You can integrate prompt engineering into even larger applications. You can have like, you can get help with an existing model and then add more information, add more data to say, okay, I think what you are giving me is not really what I want. Why don't you let me give you some additional teaching? There is no professor that is the best. You can be professor in your domain, right? Even if you're a professor in your domain, you still don't know it all, right? Sometimes you get to a level where you need to like go to the internet. I do it every day because especially in this our world of computing, if you don't, you will find yourself by tomorrow, you're already like 3 days behind, right? Within the next 24 hours, you're already 3 days behind. You know what that means? So which means you need to acquire new knowledge. So that is exactly what we're trying to do when we now add Python. So, and with the scalability that is offered by Python, we're able to add large data set again, because there's no time to start telling you this is how LLM and all those things evolved. But it is a work, not just hard work of people, but a lot of data sets that is not something you can do on your computer, right? So it's not something that you can do while we are sitting here. Months to train that data. So because of that, the training has been done, but yet it's still not perfect. How nice will it be if you now say, okay, yes, I cannot train terabytes of data, but at least I have some data to give you to say, okay, help to refine your knowledge, right? And that makes you a better AI, right? So we are going to be using Google Colab, and I already shared a link to the document, but I would just say, instead of you using that link, I will say open your own Colab notebook. Don't take the Colab notebook that I already that I have. I'm going to share that. Let me look at the link. So we're going to be using Colab notebook so that we can share, and one way or the other, I will be able to have access to all the examples you are having and everything. And most importantly, if you're on the WhatsApp group, you can share your Colab notebook if you're having any challenge, so that someone that is more experienced than you can look at your notebook and tell you what to do. So it's a joint effort. It's not just about me. So if you go into, I guess I will just let us go into the notebook, and we'll go into the So if you go into the shared material, there is a notebook here that is called prompt engineering. But like I said, that is the notebook that is open here. Like I said, this will just be your reference in case you are running behind, because I'm going to move fast. But this is there in case you are running behind based on, yes? Huh? Yes, they should have a new notebook. I'm just saying you should come back to here to either make a copy of it or look at it if you are running behind. So all you want to do is if you go to your Google Drive, or just go to collab.research.google.com. And I will also have this slide I was sharing with you. I will have it shared also on the group, on the shared folder. So go to collab.research.google.com. All the links are there in the slide. And you can start with a new notebook, right? So when you start with a new notebook, pretty much if you have been using Google Doc, you can always use Colab. So now in up here, you can name it whatever you want. So I call this DSAI, and then we have this. So just a quick heads up for people that are not familiar with using Collab Notebook. Now, there are two main buttons here, code and text, right? Now, see this as your document and again as your as the interface for you to write your code, right? So right here, you have code, and we always have a default button coming right straight out of the box where you can begin to put your Python code straight out of the box. There is a lot to learn, but I would say just let's keep it simple. If you're having any question, you can post it on the chat group, on the WhatsApp group. I'm sure somebody will be able to answer that question. So, so you just start to code right straight here. But the beauty of it again is that there is also a text option whereby you can just click it and begin to type as if you are using Google Colab. And also up here, you can share it the way you share your documents and decide with the email of whom you want to share it with, right? So you just, for example, if you are if you're having conversation on the chat, people that are gurus there might say, okay, share your workbook, let me see, right? Otherwise, it's private to you, nobody can see it, right? And then you can add their email to this place and click on share. Or you can say, okay, copy the link and send to them, right? And they will be able to have access. And if you actually go and select anyone, you are anyone with the link, then you are making it public, right? The whole world will see it. Let's say you want to brag about your latest code and you want your friends to see it. So now, and when you are adding people, you can decide whether you want them to be an editor, viewer, or commenter, right? So for editor, it means they have every right to also edit, to help you to put in those code, right? For viewer, they are not going to edit what you have already typed, right? But they can see it and point you in the right direction. So it all depends on what you want to do. So, so now we have, let's go back to the text. The text, like I said, use it like a simple word processor, right? Use the text aspect like a simple word processor. So if you have DSAI workshop, I'm not going to spend time telling you so many things about these two bugs. You are all executives, so you can figure them out, play around with them, do and undo, and then you will get used to it over time. For example, you want to make this like heading 1, you start with hash. So just learn some little code, or you just want to leave it like that for now, or you want to do a bullet whereby you just start with a dash and then space and then put what you want. But we are not here for word processing or whatever, but sometimes you just want to like add some notes so that you will be able to understand what is going on in places. And then, so if you need help, please put on the chat. If you need help on the chat. Okay. So if you need help on the chat, if you need help, please put a chat in the public space so that one of the facilitators can tell you which of the breakout rooms you can join them. If you're on Zoom and you need help, just send out a message. Send out a message and one of the facilitators will tell you to join them in room 1, 2, or 3 so that they can help you there without interference from the public space. So now let's go to where our interest lies most. Now you can move all these cells around using those arrows that you have there. And you can always create a new code, like I said, by clicking just on the code button. So let's start with what I will call the programmer's rituals, right? Programmer's rituals. Does any CS student want to tell me that? Yes? Hello world. Let's do it. So we just want to print hello world. or maybe LOAI. And if you can do this successfully, then you can code, right? Now, this is a program, first line. The thing about, I mean, you are going to be using this a lot. All we are saying is we are giving command. We are saying display what we have in the bracket, following all the syntax. And so what we have is that the string is going to be like in quotes. And so we say print hello world, and it just does what we ask it to do. Whenever you need to run any aspect of your code, you click on this play button. So when we run it, and you will see the output just right below it. I'm going to change my runtime type so that we can be, I mean, because we'll need it later. We don't need it now anyway, but. So, and if you have a GPU time or whatever, that might make your work faster as we go, I mean, when we need it. So what I was saying is, and the thing is now we have this. We have this code, we can print it, and you always see the results at the bottom of the cell. Sometimes your result will be so long that you want to keep it. You can always click on this button to just hide your output, or later you can show it because it will be so, because we're dealing with data a lot, and then you might have so much output. And you can keep on writing your code on this cell, right? You can keep on writing your code. Or you can decide to say, okay, it's getting too long, or I want this. And the beauty of Colab is you can isolate code. That doesn't mean that you cannot run them together sequentially. So you can just isolate code, but everything you put here is already in the pipeline. So you can keep on using it. If you want to assign a value to a variable, for example, so I will be taking some of this from the other one so that we can have it. So now, here is the comment line, which we just use to say, okay, this is to explain what is going on below. Just start with an hash sign. And then so we assign 10 to A using the assign symbol. And we assign 20 to B. And we are trying to print, right? Using the same print symbol that we did. So first of all, the computer prints hello world. And then you take number 10 and assign it to A. You take number 20 and assign it to B. And then you have the print, which the print, you can always decorate the way, I mean, somehow, because just printing this alone, hello world, is not really, so you can always decorate to like find a way of printing in such a way that you have some meaning. It makes sense. You remember when you code, you are not coding for yourself. You are coding for others to use. So don't think you are the one that is going to use it because you already know it, right? But many a times, this looks very vague to someone that doesn't know what you are doing. So you want to make sure. So for example, you can say, okay, if there's any information you want to add in addition, you put it in quotes. This is just literal string. Separate it with comma and do your math, right? And everything comes together and it comes in the output. So whatever you have put in here will be exactly the way it is written. And then this math that has been done, Python will do the math and get a result and put the result right here, right? Anything that is not outside the string. And you can, sometimes you might feel, oh, I need that value. So let's go now to another cell. I need that value. So I can just be like maybe C equals A times B. Right? Now I now say, okay, whatever is the result, help me to keep it because I'm going to need it later. Right? Use another identifier, we call it C. And then, so at some point, you can be like print C. So when you are printing the, A times B. So when you are printing the C, you know, A already has a value somewhere, B already has a value somewhere. When you are now saying, okay, print, so it looks in the memory to find out what is stored in C, and then it prints it using the print command. And then, so it does the math and it prints it. Or you can also add text and everything the way you want it. But this time around, it stores the value. In the previous example, it doesn't store the value of A plus B. It just processes and gives it. You don't, unless you do it again, it doesn't remember it doesn't even create a memory for it, right? But here you create a memory for it. You can always remember what was the value that was stored when A was multiplied by B, right? So now, like I said in Collab, when I was showing you the slide, it comes with a lot of libraries already installed, which means you don't need to install them. If you are, in the next session, my colleague will be teaching you how to actually install locally on your computer, right? So based on that, you are able to also understand how to, because there are some things that you also want to do locally, right? Without getting connected. And especially when you are working with big data, uploading alone might take forever before you start talking of training. So sometimes you want to work locally when you are dealing with big data, because you will be doing more of big data with my colleague. So, but in that case, you have to install all those libraries that you need. But the beauty about it is that once you install it, it's done, right? You don't need to reinstall it again, right? Because you only need to install it once. But in Collab, depending on whether you are in Pro or not in Pro, or whether how much you have, you can go through your Google Drive and store all those things in your Google Drive. But again, in order to be able to do treat why we are here, I don't want to deviate too much, but there's a lot for you to learn. This is just foundation. So the first thing is that not all these libraries that you are using are available in Google Colab. So you still have to install the Colab. So when you hear about installing any library, you can always just go ahead and use PIP command to make that installation. And because you are not working locally on your computer, PIP command is a kind of command that we say is run by the operating system, that you need an operating system to run it, right? So you need like a terminal or a command line where you have to type the code on your, but because you are working remotely, all you need to do is always precede it with a bank sign, right? So always predict. So whenever you are maybe reading any textbook and all those things on Python, and it doesn't put the bank sign and it tells you, you are working on Colab, just put it there, because if you put it, in a normal terminal, you shouldn't be putting it, right? So now, you just go with pip install anything that is not already there, right? And then it goes. So it goes. So let's assume we're interested in OpenAI, because OpenAI is a library that you will be using for your ChatGPT. Though I've decided not to use it for us, because unless you have paid subscription, you cannot use the API. So I want something that every one of us will be able to use without needing to have a paid subscription, right? So we have OpenAI. So let's say that's what we want to install, right? And then you wait. This has already been installed, right? If you have any other thing, sometimes you have errors. Those are not big errors. It's just telling you because you don't have the libraries, and you just go and install it and use it. So, and then, but I want us to focus mostly on the things that we will be needing, right, for this course, because there's also more to learn in Python. But the basic things that we'll be needing from this course, for example, especially if you are doing prompt engineering, or if you are programming for machine learning or AI, you will be uploading files a lot, right? Maybe you have like database of National Population Commission that is running to millions, right? You don't want to be loading it as an array or as a list one by one. Who is going to type that? Millions of data, right? The government just gives you the file and you are going to upload it, right? You don't need to hire typists to start entering it, data entry, right? So now we're going to get one more code cell, right? And then if you are going to be uploading files on your computer, so first of all, you will start by making sure that you have the library that you need, right? And that is all files. The import, you will see it a lot because the files is already available as part of your Google Colab, right? So all you just want to do is to say, bring it into my program. So whenever you see the import, anywhere you see import, you are just saying, yes, I know it exists, but I want to use it as part of this program, right? So we are saying we need files, and that's the name that the owners have named it, files. So we want to import it, and then we are also going to now have whatever file you want to upload. All you need is file, a way of uploading. A way of uploading the file. All you are saying now is that since you have import files, help me with the files program. You can just say like files program that I've just see it as the helper program, right? What we call the class, right? And then you are saying in that program, help me to find the program that is called upload, because it is that program that is called upload that will help people to upload files into this system. Does that make sense? So that you can let people upload their files. Anybody that is using your code will be able to upload their files. And it's also important to say, okay, what you are uploading, are you going to save it or not? Of course, you need to save it. Memory identifier is everything that the computer needs to save anything. So, which means you are going to like save it into an identifier of your choosing, right? So let's say you are choosing, let's say uploaded, and assign it, right? That is, once you have uploaded this file, I don't want to upload it in vain, just assign it to a name that is called uploaded. Does that make sense? And so if you run this now, it's waiting for you to choose the files you want to upload, right? And you can just go, and it just goes into your desktop and asks you to look for that file, right? And you can select that file and it uploads it into your code, right? And so I'm going to cancel the upload now because we are not uploading yet. And you can always run it again to choose a file that you want to upload into the code so that the code can now have access to that file using the name you have given it, right? Okay. Now, one more thing that is also fun about using Colab is being able to actually import files. Access files from being able to access files from your drive, your Google Drive, right? So that you can integrate your Colab with your Google Drive, right? All you need to do is, because one of the downsides of using Colab, as you know, we are just working in the cloud. Right now, whatever we are doing, it's not our computer processor that is doing it. It's being handled by Google's computer, right? And that's why don't put in your password. Don't put in your API key, right? There's a way you can do it without needing to put it in. And I think I will show you that tomorrow. So now, the Google Drive belongs to you, it's private to you. So, and many a times you don't want to be uploading the same thing. Every time you log out and then you come back again, you have to start again and re-upload and everything. But if you want to sync it with your Google Drive, right? All you just want to do is you can see the similarity from google.colab, right? The import, this time around, the program we need is Drive. Does that make sense? And then we are like, okay, Drive program. Help me with your month program. Use the program called month in your system. And this is the parameter that the month accepts. It takes what is the directory, where, and in most cases, you want to start with /content/drive because that's the default. That is like the home of where you have your drive, right? So you are like, okay, go to content drive, and then you can now follow the prompt. So when you are like, go to content drive, and then it gives you access to connect to your Google Drive, and then you can specify which account you want to use, right? This might take a while. That's why I'm avoiding you so. But that's okay. So it tells you there is no internet on this computer. I mean, on this phone. So, someone help me to connect internet to the phone. Yes, I need internet on this. I need the wireless.
Which question size?
Yes.
So the password. That's a laptop too.
This laptop is already there.
Okay.
No, I'm going to do it again. Okay, so I'm sure that many of you must have gone ahead of me now, right? Yes, there was no internet on my phone for it to validate that. Okay, so let's go back now and do this. So while it's loading, because I think I have a lot of files. Okay, great, done. So until when you see this message, mounted at So which means you can actually use anything that you use. You can work in your Google Drive the way you work. For example, if you have created a directory, let me find the directory where we have the workshop. Actually, I'm just going to put something here. Yes.
Huh? No, they want to be taking screenshots.
Screenshots.
As in before you move to the next one.
Okay, okay. So I should scroll back. Actually, everything I'm putting in here is in the Google Colab that I shared. Okay. Like this. Okay. Tell them.
Hey everyone, please, some of these things, this post here, take a picture of them on your phone so that in case you move, you still have what's on your phone to type. Okay?
Okay. So now that you have it mounted on your drive, you can actually use many of the commands that are available, right? So for example, if you go into for those of you that are used to using something like you want to change to your directory, you want to use ls and so on to find a list of what is in the, but I want to just say, right now you are in your drive and you can get document within that directory, right? Now, one of the things that you also want to do is loading data. So you want to plot it. So I'm just going to quickly give you. So first of all, we'll start with all those imports, right? Don't always forget that anything you need, you want to get it. Sometimes you need to also download it if it doesn't come packaged with Colab. So you want to download it, and that is, it goes to the web server, internet where it is stored, and it downloads it and provides it for you. So you have with the import, you are saying you need the pandas. Those are the names of the libraries that you will be needing. And there is also sometimes, because some of these names could be really long, pandas is still okay to manage. But because some of these names could be really long, sometimes you also want to add something like as to say, the name I want to give it in my own case is PD, so that instead of me typing the whole long name PANDAS next time, so you remember when we did import files, right? We were using files as a name here. I can as well say import files as F, so that anytime I want to use files, I just say F. We programmers, we want to reduce everything with time. We are too busy, right? So now, so you are saying import it as PD, no big deal. So that next time I need pandas, I can just be like PD, right? And there's another thing I also need. This, you always need it for plotting graph, because we know many of the things, maybe you want to see the performance of your GPT prompt and everything, or how many words you have used. You can do all of that for prompting. So it's also, so there are many ways by which you can do that, but one of the simplest of them all is PyPlot. So you go, and then we are saying we also want to call it PLT, so that anytime we need math plot lib, which apparently is longer, you can always type PLT in place of it. So we go ahead, and all those two will be imported. And then, so let's assume we have a list of data, right? Now let's work with lists. A list of data, let's say, call it data. And what we do is, for example, we can say, okay, we have this data, and the data is, we start with this brace. There are different brace. We will learn, I will show you some of it shortly. So we can have the curly brace. So I think what will be best now is if lunch can be served right here, when the truth is full, because we took time before we start. So we have a list of data items. It's being recorded, but we will share it with everybody else. Let me later. Yeah. Yes, if I want to sing so now we have a list of data items, and I'm going to put all of this data here, right? And the data that we are putting in here. Okay, let me leave this aside and teach you something about data types first. I'm going to leave this here and teach you something about data type here first. So, we have been familiar with the string data type. Like I said, the whole thing is in the notebook, the big one I shared, but just follow along here. So now let's say this is what we are assigning as the first text. We call it text as the name, and we call it LOAI word, right? That's the, we put it in quotes as the string we are assigning here. And then with the string data type alone, there are so many programs that can help you. I will just show you two, right? For example, you might be interested in this text that you have just put in here, which is more like LOAI word dot upper. That is, you take that text, this value, and you are saying convert it to uppercase, right? And then it gives you the uppercase equivalent. And it's expected to become something like this. So, and then, for example, the length method also, which you also use like LEN, right? So with the length, you just give it the text. It just helps you to count how many strings are there, right? Actually, one beauty of Colab is that you can actually, let's say, text, the same text, dot. By the time you start with dot, it gives you a list of suggestions of all the things you can do with anything string, anything text. And out of it, we have just used two, and you can see how many. Find out about them, hover on them, or click on them to see. That is how to learn coding, right? Make mistake and find the problem. So now you have replace, which you always use to replace, that is, you are trying to find a string and replace with another string. So there's a lot of automation that you can do. There's a lot that you can do with that, right? So strip and so on, as time goes on, we'll be using some of these. We'll be using many of these, right? So you can find, so what we just used now is upper right here to convert it to uppercase. So there's no magic there. Find everything that you can have. You want to convert it to title case. You want to split. We're going to use split later to remove or suffix and so on. So play along with it. And for every other object that you will be dealing with, for every other, so let's say, Noah. Right? And then you convert it all to lowercase, right? And then you can have all of them just achieving what you have just asked me to do, right? It tells you the length is 16, that is the number of characters, and it tells you it converts it to the uppercase equivalent, here it converts it to the lower case equivalent, and there's a lot much more that you can do. So let's look at numbers, what you can also do with numbers. With numbers, you can say, okay, let's say, because we have done some numbers before. So let's say, so I'm not going to spend more time in that. For example, you want to print age and pi. You have a value that is called age, you have a value that is called pi, and you sum it together and you print it, and different kind of tricks. One thing about Python is that you don't have to worry yourself about what is the, whether it has decimal place or not. In some other languages, right, like Java, you have to tell it what kind of, is it double, is it float, that is what. So that's why I said Python is simple to learn. There is less to kickstart. So in order to start get it running. So which means you are taking a number 24 and you are adding to, an integer number 24 and you are adding to a float number 3.14 and everything becomes 28.14, just like that. So, and then, so I was saying, so we're going to talk about list, right? Because that is where the strength of working with machine learning, that is where the strength lies, right? Because you are dealing with a very huge data set, right? And you want to probably take this data set and use it whichever way you want to use it. So for example, so we are going to start with list, which is actually the simplest of them all. All it does is use square brackets, and put your list inside it, separate it by comma, right? For example, let's say you want to create a list of prompts and you want to automate your prompt instead of going to OpenAI Playground and start typing one by one and you don't even have any inference to get from there and all those things. So you go to like prompts and you assign it to a list. You assign it to a list using this kind of bracket, right? Inside your list, you begin to put a list of things that you want to put and separate it by comma. For example, let's say the first thing you want to say is summarize this text, right? That's what you want to, because I'm using prompt as an example. You can use anything in your list, numbers and so on, right? So, but because we are dealing with prompt engineering, so you are saying, okay, I want ChatGPT to help me with a list of options, right? Maybe you are a teacher, you want to create a list of questions for your students, right? And you are like, okay, carve out a question. The next one is that change the variable. You can say use the previous question and change variables or something like that. So you can say, okay, no, I don't want a summary. The next thing is that explain this concept. So just separate it by comma. So this is a list of one item. Now we have made it a list of two items, right? And then you can begin to put any number of items that you want on the list. So here we have generate questions. And so on, any number that you want on the list. And so you have a prompt, and then at some point, you want to like print. So let's say you want to print, and in our print, we just want to print the prompt value, and then you'd be dealing with the index. I'm wondering if when it is time for lunch, maybe lunch can just be served here. Because we didn't serve on time, we didn't start on time. Would that be okay? Okay, great. So we have, so we want to print the prompts, and then, so you specify, because you are using lists, which index. It starts with index 0, index 1, index 2, right? It always starts with 0, and this is the highest one. So you have print the element in index 1, for example. It means you are looking at what is the second element, right? And so you go with that, which says explain this concept, is what is in that. And then, so if you have dictionary, we also have, we may want to arrange it as dictionary. So with the dictionary, we use curly brace and curly brace to bracket it, right? So with the dictionary, so let's say we have a list of students this way, right? All we need is a curly brace and matching curly brace, just like the one I did the other time. And instead of your list being a square brace like this, Python understands that, oh, your list will come in pair. For example, I might be looking at maybe a list of name and that is name paired with what is the name of that person, age paired with what is the age of that person, and so on, right? Or maybe a list of my students, their name paired with their score, right? The name, so you just go, so which means it comes in pair, what we call the key value pair, with a key, the first one on the left is the key, the one on the right is the value. So, which means you can go ahead and have something like this, print the student with the name key, right? And then it will go and find what pairs with that name. And sometimes our list is not as simple as this. Our list means that it's really long and you want it to look really neat. So sometimes we want to decorate it conventionally and just push your list one by one on separate lines, right? So that it can just look tidy. And by glancing at it, you can easily see where each item falls, right? And so we have, so when we print, so when we're saying for that student, print students with name, and you can see this comes in square brackets, right? Because this is no longer a dictionary, this is the syntax, right? So that when you say student name, it goes and print what is on the other side of it. And then we can go ahead and print that. It prints Alice. And you can do that with any of, like student age, it prints 20. So, let's say we have a list of tasks to do for your prompts. And then you are like, this is the list of my prompts, right? This is the list of my prompts. You have summarize, comes with summarize the following text, right? And then question. This is ask a question about something. Because sometimes we want to automate that list. So at some point you are like, okay, what comes with summarize, right? And then what comes with summarize is going to be summarize the following text, right? What comes with question? What comes with question is going to be ask a question about, right? And we'll get to how we can use all of this in automating the process for our prompts. So now we also are interested in conditionals, right? Whereby we want certain conditions to be satisfied before we do any other action. So like I said, all of these are available in the backup code. Actually, if you are worried about, if you are not able to get that, I think we have the drive. Yes, we have the drive here. So this document that I shared, anytime you are like missing out on something, just come to this document. You will find the example I'm showing you from somewhere. If you go all the way, we are right now here on that document. So come back to that document. We are now talking about dictionary. So I did this so that it can make us move fast. So you can come to the shared document. If you think you are lagging behind in something, you will find it here, right? So this is the example I was just showing you. And then, so in terms of control for flow, we always want to check situations. You can learn, you can read some Python online on YouTube about control flow, and it tells you what all of this means, greater and equal, and so on. And we use whichever one is relevant as we go on in the course. So we also have so now, very important, function, usage of function. We're going to be creating a lot of functions when we work with a big data set, because you don't want to be repeating the same code. So you can use function to build a template for your code, right? use function to build a template for your code, right? So for example, so you start with the def keyword and you just use tab. Tab means a lot in Python. So you use tab to say everything under it belongs to it, right? So in the tab, we are saying this code, and then you give the name of the function. So the name of our function is called greet, right? And this greet, we put it in another, we enter another name inside it called name. So all we are saying is that with the colon, so everything that we have goes into, I mean, it's the code that you are writing as that function. So which means all you are saying is that your function should always, whenever it is invoked, it should return, that is using the return keyword, whatever you have here, right? Yes. And this is also a way of also formatting your string, right? So you start with an F with that string, right? And then whatever is not a string, actual string, if it is a value that you want to pull from memory, then you put it in braces. That's also a way of formatting string, and you can see that everything is still in quotes, right? But whenever it gets in touch with anything in brace here, it looks out for the value, that is name, that is here. And so when you run that function, you can invoke it anywhere in your program. Right now, you just... So I said, when you run the function, now the essence of the function is to write a code. You don't see its result until when it is invoked, right? So we have just written a code, but nothing is happening. Even when we have, please, if you mind, if just mute everybody except me. So now we are saying when you have this input, this string with an F to say a formatted output, this is how we want to format it. You start with everything string until when Python encounter a curly brace. Everything you put in curly brace will be treated as value, right? So when we run it, it will be treated as value. So if at some point we now invoke that function, we need to call its name, right? So we call greet. And so when we invoke the function, we are like greet. And greet says it must take a parameter that is like whatever it is. It will be equivalent to name. And so let's say name is, oops. So name is, we want to give it a string and we want to call it my name, right? And because we have already loaded this function into memory, right? It already knows there is a function called greet. And we're saying for that function called greet, pass Yetunde as a value into it. So everything that is called name translates to Yetunde, right? And then when I say hello, it looks for that value. Name, which is Yetunde. So that ultimately translates to hello, Yetunde. Does that make sense? Great. So we have, when we say this, so that will now be the output. And then there are many other things that we can do with string, and you will find them in that notebook because we still have a lot to do. So we can go ahead and have, like, for example, we now have hello is the first one. Word, so you can concatenate those strings, you can put space and everything and print it. Oh, you can put space and everything in your code cell. And so I think pretty much this is what I call X of Python, right? And also you can actually read from files, which is also very important. So it's not just about loading with interactivity. So when we read from files, for example, this is just a template. You can have some adaptation also about it, but you can always take this straight from the box to say, okay, use the weight, that is for as long as when you open a file that is called example.txt, right? When you open, so let's say your file is dataset in a text format, maybe a CSV that you have put as separated. And then this, you are saying just open it as read only, or you can just leave it. You can read more about how to actually other parameters that you can add into the cells. And you are saying you want it to be a file. And then, I mean, so you are now saying, okay, use the read for that file, right? Use the read method to say, read the content of this file. Read the content of my data set, because that's what you will be using eventually to do your training or whatever you are doing, and then print that content. And so when you go all the way to read, yeah, I don't have the file. So let's put it, I mean, it's what you give that you get. I've not given it a file, so I can't get a read to work. So so you can always like load files into your directory here by just simply dragging it. So I'm just going to take the file that we had from our directory, from the same directory. I believe I put one file that is called example.txt there. So okay, so we have the example text, and I will just move it here, right? And so we have the example.txt. And so when you have it, it just looks for the name of the file, right? That you have. And now it's part of your document. And I can hide this so that I can be able to see, more of what is going on below. And then so let's look at a situation. Okay, let's also go to writing in files before we go into that. Writing to files. So we want to write to files, and then when we are writing to files, we have just opened a text document, right? So we have just opened a text document, and then all we just want to do is we call it output. And so you want to be able to write. It looks, if that file is existing, it writes it to it. And if it's not existing, it opens a file with the name that you have. And so you don't need to upload anything in that situation. And so you have this one going into there. And so a new file has just been created as output.txt. And this is what we want to write into that file, right? Or you can say pass the content of this, right? And pass it into this file. So we have the file has been written. It will show up here if we refresh it. I think let me see where I am first. Okay, yeah. Okay, so it's there. And so the next thing that we want to do is being able to work with CSV files, because that's very common with what we do. When you deal with data, most likely your data is given you as a CSV files. So you have so still the same thing, the way we open file, right? All you just need to do, but you need what we call a CSV reader. So for you to be able to do that, you need to import CSV, right? Because that will help you to read from any CSV file, because CSV is a special kind of file. So you want to import it, and then you can also use, so I'm going to be using one of the files that we have in our folder, which is called Lagos Precipitation Truncated. So I'm going to also load it in here. So I'm going to load it in here. It's a large file. There is a large version of it, but this is short so that it will save our time, uploading time. So, and for that, we are going to open that file again and use your reader. Like I said, if you have any future file to open, you can take this out of the box and study it, analyze it to see how it works, right? And this is the name of the file, right? And we are also opening it for reading and as file also. And then, so we begin to say, this is the program that we need in it. So we are saying reader, that is, let the reader program help us to load that file so that we can let us read the content of that file and we can print its row to see what it looks like. And so if we go ahead, we can see that file, right? Now this looks more like what is in the spreadsheet, and you can see it has converted it to list, right? That's converted it to list just because you have, and what I mean by list is that a table, right? So which means for each of the lists, because a CSV is usually expected to be like a two-dimensional table or list, right? For each row, you have a list of items, starting with the headers, right? So when you get your data set that you will eventually be using, you will be using that, because you will do that, a lot of that with what my colleague will be teaching you won't, especially if you don't know how to use Python before. So JSON file as well is also very popularly used to manage large data sets. So we also have to import JSON, just like when we were doing CSV, we imported CSV. So we also have to import JSON. And then when we import JSON, we still use the same structure, right? We still use the same structure with open, and then you specify the name of your file. This time we are using example.json. So that's also a format of a file whereby files are loaded like, files are represented something similar to the dictionary I showed you the other time, right? So, but it's more complex. Take a lot of data sets with what matches them. For example, you can say house one, the number of people in that house. Each of the person in that house also has data set that is associated with them. For example, if in that house for example, you can have a country. In that country, there are many cities. In each city, there are many roads, or there are many streets. In each street, there are many houses. In each house, there are many people, right? And in each people, there are many properties. So height, age, weight, and so on. You can see so many sets of data inside another set, inside another set. It becomes complicated if it's not well arranged. And so in that kind of situation, you want to arrange it as something like JSON format, whereby you can use curly brace to group what you have. This is an example of the JSON format. I will put this here. So we have this, and if you look at this data set now, it looks this way. So that is the data set. For example, you have, starting with the name, you see, it starts with a curly brace, and there will be a matching curly brace that groups everything about workshop together, right? In that workshop, you also have something like title, date, location, and then sessions itself have its own set of data. Does that make sense? And then inside it, you have it as a list, time, activity, and so on. And then you close that. So you can begin to use curly brace to group, to embed a list inside another bigger list of items, right? And by that, you are able to compress very large data sets into just one file, right? So And people also like to work with that kind of format. And so with that kind of format, okay. So with that kind of format, we can go on with, so we have the JSON and so on, and then we have the data, and we can now upload that file, and we have that data. Now, no matter how big the data is, your system will be able to make sense out of what is grouped together, make sense with what is grouped together in the data set. And next, we want to look at, because when we talk about prompt engineering, it is now that anybody if you have any question at this point, let me know. Or if you need help with anything, I can see the helpers are going around. So, but right now, we want to now move forward to where the reason why we are here. And we'll continue the rest of this aspect of the training tomorrow, while you will learn something new again after lunch. I'm putting my fingers like this to just put lunch in quotes, because is lunch being served? Yes, sir. Okay. Yes, sir.
Because it's a health check. For those of us who are above 50, and I know we are in minority here, we have realized one thing, that it starts from the time when you are young. You see, this is my fourth building. It's not because I didn't design it, although it's a genetic acquisition, right? But it starts from the time when you sit down for a long period. So you are all going to get up. Let your blood circulate, because this is a weakness of people in computer. Prof, stand up. You have been sitting down for too long.
Oh, God.
It's a weakness of people who are digital world. You sit down and focus. Your eyes are the first ones that will become weak. They're followed by your system. Any system that is not exercise, it's not good. So you are going to exercise, try and move around, and then answer the question once that you ask. What have you thought throughout so far?
Yeah.
Now you know what prompt engineering is. So I can answer that.
Slide.
The prompt engineer, right? No. First form is cyber security file. Was that job available? So I see that I create jobs, not reduce them. Now, business needs
Okay, so I'm not to start them.
who uses take plan. If you combine those opportunities for use each ban and plan, the significant number, those use this plan. What our eyes have seen in recent times is indicative of the need for us to focus attention and improve cyber security. This young man has already seen, you know, you need to go to Babalawo. The first thing who is in Babalawo is what told you that the future for what is very, very important. Think about what I to I think it forms what the whole icon appears. That means all of us get together and start to keep in various places that so we will try to power partner there. And maybe also call it impact Nigeria or something like that. That allows us to also take advantage of this for communication and take this to the next level across learning Nigeria. So we have to look at what the neural network, that language models, and then we bring in what our studies have behavior of people and bring that so these two ecosystems are one idea, fiber Nigeria and deep learning Nigeria. I think we need to use happen model. They said collaborate. Now, I want you to have interest in this. You need to bring out competition. Cargo used to bring monthly or quarterly competition. Attach commercial into it. Because coding, we don't have problem to solve. But in machine learning, here, coding is 20%. Mathematics is like physics. If you don't know what mathematics, you will coding to solve. So you have to be a stock exchange channel. This one, and you attach money to it. What you learn, there is like 2 months. I thought you coding that direction. And this react, those people want us to report it. You know, I didn't know anything about what was happening first world. I meant one very important thing. But when I was studying food technology management, this exchange then came from Kenya. And what was interesting was that they will collect data from the stock exchange, Asia, and then they will predict. They actually predicted that downward in 1990s in Asia. When the stock exchange was going, and they are put it in neural networks. And I started learning, I think what are neural networks. And then I understood them, but I think there was no coding place in the 90s. So at 1997, they were already using the stock market information, put them into neural networks and make predictions. And in fact, the title of the life was stochastic evaluations. So I'm in my head. What it meant, God knows. You know, but I don't put in my head that there was something like stochastic evaluation. And I read about it and I lost that of the pictures. Yes, right? So I said one thing. So I don't know if I should just from the Department of Public Education.
Sorry, the people on the internet, the people on the Zoom, yeah, they are wondering. Also, my colleague, the other professor is also.
Oh.
Yeah.
So please come and solve this problem. He said there is no coding, there is no problem. There is a problem now. But by and large, I think
Okay, so we want to look at what we actually do when we deal with text, because apparently we already know that all this, everything that we do in prompt is about typing and telling ChatGPT, do this or that for me. And actually, everything we deal with when we process computer, be it ChatGPT is generating image and you are giving it. Please, I want everybody muted except me. The admins, you please mute everybody except me. Okay, so all we are doing is everything is text, including the audio that I'm recording. Everything boils down to some numbers, some code, right? Which eventually still has to do with text. So text is really very important. Text, that's why we emphasize string and how we can handle it and how we can manage it. And because everything we deal with when it comes to the world of processing boils down to text. So now, having said that, these text that we are manipulating, we need to understand how we can process them, right? How we can process them. So the next thing we want to look at is how do we process this text? So I will just give you a quick, what I would say, maybe like 4 to 5 points of what you do with text in order to make it ideal for processing within your computer. The first thing is that you want to be able to tokenize it. I will share the slide. I will be talking off slide now, but everything that is also on slide and the notes that I share with you is what I'm talking about now. So now you want to look at what do you do with that text? So the first thing that you want to do with that text is being able to tokenize it, being able to tokenize that text. And what do we mean by tokenizing it? First of all, if I say, I am a teacher, right? How many words is that? 4 words, great. Which is very simple. Because for you to be able to understand, to analyze that text, that might be, okay, maybe you even want to check the dictionary to see what is the meaning of teacher, what is the meaning of this word. First of all, you want to break it down to each of the constituents, right? That gives you work. So tokenization is the first phase of saying, okay, what are the words that are in this document? And so there are libraries that support you with that in Python and everything. So it's the first thing that you want to look at, being able to process it and tokenize it. For example, we have like, let's say this says AI is transforming the world, right? That's what we have assigned as our text. All you just need is, this is the simplest thing that Python provides, split. It's just using space to split word. But there are more sophisticated ways by which you can split your text. When you begin, especially for people that deal with natural language processing, you will not be looking at split alone. There are libraries, for example, from NLTK, Natural Language Toolkit, that gives you, even for you to be able to tokenize it, maybe two words, or like what we call diagrams, trigram, and so on. But what we're just saying, all we want to do is, in what format do you want your word? I want it as just split. Take it, use the sentence. So that you can be able, for example, if I have AI is transforming the word, I already know that it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words. But how do I split it? I don't need to start cracking my head about writing some code, loop, iteration, and all those things. I can just split. And when I call the split function on it, it split it into each of those constituents using the space as demarcator. And then we will expect it to come up with AI as a separate element on that list. You see now it has returned it as a list, square bracket. AI, so you now have a list of 5 words in it, 5 strings in it. And you can begin to use it for next phase of your processing or whatever you want to do. And then normalization. So you want to, like, e.g., you want to convert it to standard form, e.g., like lowercase, or even number, some other sophisticated representation that you'll be able to use in some machine learning models and algorithms that you probably are going to learn when you are dealing with big data. So, but we have done that before. So, for example, you say, okay, you want all of them to be lowercase. And that makes sense because you see, in Python, it treats capital letter and small letter as not the same, right? So you can imagine if you have a big chunk of text with repetition, just because one of them has uppercase, one of them has lowercase, then For example, Yetunde with a capital Y is different from Yetunde with a smaller y, but they're still talking about the same person, right? So why don't you just normalize it by that and be able to reduce the number of words I'm dealing with, right? I mean, the number that will be created maybe as my list or something, use an ideal representation, right? And so normalization, first of all, one of the things that you do is you want to like put it in a form that will be suitable for your next, I mean, for your another additional processing, phase of processing. So, and then sometimes also you want to remove punctuation because they don't add meaning to what you are saying. They don't really add, they just add more load. Remember, you are processing and you need to train, you need to do a lot of data set. You want to exclude as much as are not relevant as possible. So based on that, you want to say, okay, remove the punctuation, for example. There is also a standard method that you can use within Python to remove punctuation. For example, so we just call punctuation, right? So punctuation will create a list or a table of everything punctuation in that sentence or in that word or in that string. And when it creates that list, you can now go ahead and decide what you want. So for example, so anything punctuation, as you can see, will be removed. So where we are, hello, comma, with word, exclamation mark. So exclamation mark is a punctuation, comma is a punctuation, just add more load, more burden to what you are processing, whereas you don't really need it. So based on that, so let's say we now have a new version of the text that we call plain text. So all we just need to do from the text, because text provides all those support in Python, as long as it's a text, you can call or translate, which helps you to convert it to a version of that text based on calling, first of all, creating a table of the punctuation, all of them. So which means we need to pass that string into a punctuation. And even the make trans takes 3 parameters. The first parameter that you have there, here, I see it as just quote, that is nothing. Nothing is in it. Also here, what we call an empty string. Nothing is also here. But we are saying you can actually put something there and put another thing here. So that if A is here and B is here, it just replaces everywhere it finds A, you put it as B, right? For example, you can find some word. Let's say USA and United States. You want them to be the same. Maybe there is too much of it. You can just say anywhere you find USA, replace with United States and remove punctuation, right? And you have been able to do so many things at the same time, right? So, but right now, this is a placeholder for, say, you want to remove something and replace with something else, right? And you can also do that at the same time. There's also the replace method and so on that you can use for dedicated to replacing. But even the make trans will still even help you to replace at the same time while you are also calling the punctuation to say remove all the punctuation. And if we are able to run this, we can now have a cleaner version of our text, right? And you don't have to start in any order. You can start by saying, okay, you have this version of your text, and then later you can now tokenize it, maybe because you want to deal with them string by string, and then you can normalize it, right? For example, you can make it into things like bag of words and so on, but we're not talking about that here. But you want to say, okay, just put it in a standard uniform form. For common simple one is make it all lowercase, right? And stemming and lemmatization is also done to help you to reduce that big chunk of text. For example, you want to cut off, for example, going and go. They are saying the same thing. They represent the same thing. You want to stem it, that is, cut off some, the end side of it, so that you are only, that's how the stemming algorithm works in the NLTK. So, which means if you are going to be doing stemming and lemmatization, all you are doing is that, for example, things like going and go, they are the same thing. You want to compress them as the same word because they represent the same thing, right? So that you can reduce again the dimension of that large text that you need. You can reduce it and you can process it more quickly, right? So in that case, For example, we are dealing with word like running. Running will be stemmed into run. It will take off all the ing. You don't need to start worrying yourself about looking or searching for ing and removing it, because the library will help you to fix that. And then but you need different libraries provide support for stemming and lemmatization a lot. You can read about the advantages and disadvantages and see which one is beneficial to you. But the simplest of them is the one in NLTK. So we go to NLTK.stem. We have to import it again. What we need is Porter stemmer for us to be able to stem. So when you use the Porter stemmer, you now go ahead and create what we call, and we will be going with this all the time, the instance. That is, you want to create like a representation or what we call object of the entity that will be processed by your code. So you are creating it for that Porter stemmer, right? So once you create it, you are saying, this is the name I want to assign to it. You will see this a lot. Whenever you import an object, you want to like construct that object, right? Whenever you import it. So you are creating Porter stemmer. And then let's say we have words like this, running, runner, and run, and so on, a list that you have just created or that you have just, let's say you have just tokenized some sentences, some documents, and you have tokenized them and it boils into this kind of list. And then you can just go ahead and have them. And then because you already have the Porter stemmer helping you to load it and saving it as a stemmer. So you can just go ahead and say that stemmer, right? Dot, all you need is to get the right method. Like I said, the moment you do use that dot, right, it begins to give you a list of options. And you will find, if you've forgotten the option, you can find it there. So you can go to stem, and if you hover on any of those, it even tells you what it is, right? So it tells you that stem is a method, or what we call a function, a program, right? Just like the simple function that we wrote the other time that helps us to print out a name. So it's a function, and these are what it does, right? So these are what it does. And then, so you put the word, and so I will just say, take this again, and begin to practice with it and see how it works for you out of the box. All we are saying is that we are saying for every word, right, that is, for every word inside this list, right? We are saying look through every word that is for word in word, that is every X or Y or Z in this variable. And what is that variable? A list that contains running, runner, and run. So for every word in it, you want to get the stem words, right? Because you have assigned this to stem words. And stem word is like stem, that is the program that helps you to stem it, right? So stem word, that is, take the first word, stem it. Take the next word, stem it. Take the next word, stem it. It automatically, implicitly runs through every element in this list until it gets to the last element, and it stops stemming. And it prints it. So you say print the stemmed one, and then you have the list. Yes. Huh? The first output. Yes, running, change to run. Excellent. Very good question. What the algorithm does, what the stemmer algorithm in the NLTK does is to truncate. It already has a list of what it truncates in its database. Things like ing, ed, and so on, right? Okay. So that's why. And that's why, if you think you want to depend on any library for your solution, it doesn't work like that. So many a time you take advantage of that library and you now begin to isolate the outliers in your data set, because you still have to write code, you still have to write Python. No library is customized for your own usage. So if you feel, oh, this is not ideal, it's either you find a better library that has the picture you are looking for, or you now write a code to supplement what the library already is. That's what I was saying. So I said the algorithm truncates based on, so it has things like ED. So let's say you have, let's have this on the list. Yes, sir. Let's say we have table.
Hold on.
Oh, yes, sir.
On the lighter note, do you agree with me that this professor needs to drink water?
Sir, this is water. I drink it.
Water. Because we have been on since morning. And, you know, I'm not a wellness expert, but I know that she needs to take care of herself.
No, I'm good.
And she didn't have breakfast, so did you notice that? She didn't have breakfast, she has not taken water. So let us encourage her to take a break so that the professor from Wentworth can take over while she
I already gave the professor the time to show up, so
okay.
We don't want to.
Yeah, but you need to take care of yourself. There are so many people here who can interact with people so that you eat, relax, and.
Don't worry.
I'm worried.
No.
It's my duty to get worried.
It's because those people are time banked over there.
I know. We are all.
Okay, what do you want me to do?
I want you to drink water.
I want to assure you, this is water. I want to assure you I have something more than water.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just drink water of everyone.
I appreciate that, sir. So, so we have, so I was saying, I was looking for, okay, let's say, documented, right? So something like documented, if that is our word, because, no, I'm not muted. You said I'm muted? Huh? No, I'm not muted. Abi? Okay, maybe. Okay, anyway. So, so we want to look at this now because there is a list. It just cuts off. Okay, let's say, and I will show you something again. Accelerated, right? Let's see what happens. Does this make sense? Because it's programmed to cut off ED. And that's why spotter stemma, spotter stemma is really weak when it comes to handling some, it's the simplest. It's when you want to do some very simple, straightforward, and sometimes you do trade-off as well, right? Because this is fast, right? So sometimes you just, but again, it comes with, it's able to like narrow your text down much more in the sense that like it's able to reduce the dimension of your text, right? Because, the actual, to the actual, so what we call the base word. Yes, it reduces it to the base word by just cutting off the last, so there's not too much processing, it's fast, right? So if that speed is your priority and you feel this was like accelerate that will come up, it's not even accelerate, it's like accelerate. Yeah, so it just, so because it just takes off the ATED. Yes. So anyway, because there are some words like that, which you need to understand it and learn what to do in order to make it. So now, and that because of that, stemming, as an improvement over that, there is lemmatization. This is not NLTK class. This is not NLP class. We want to really do what, so there is lemmatization, which gives you better output over this. So, but if you are interested again, just get the NLTK documentation. I can share it in the group if anyone asks for it. The NLTK documentation and some of those, some of the past things I've taught on NLP. And you can have some full detail about about those libraries that matter when it comes to the dimensionality reduction of your text that you want to process. So, and then there is also stop word remover, right? Which things like is, and so on. All those words that don't really, they just make, actually, if you actually, yes, conjunctions and so on, they are not key. The conjunction is in our everyday sentences. Actually, you will realize that when over 50% of your word is redundant, and you can now imagine being able to cut off 70% of your word and concentrate on the ones that matter, right? And so because of that, you first of all want to find a way of removing the stop words. And so the stop words, so you go into, first of all, you have to go again into NLTK if you are using NLTK library, and then download the stop words, right? The stop words is just like a database of all those words. You don't have to crack your head about it. And then you can also, so once you get that done, you have to download it and make it available because it's a database, right? And then you can go ahead into the nltk.corpus directory and then go and get the stop words class, the program that will help you with that. And then you again, and you always realize that you now need what you need. So for example, you need the set method, the set program, for you to be able to say, okay, what are the words? So you need the stop words program to say, for the stop words, go and help me to find your words method. And I want to use English because it has a lot of stop words for different languages. And then you can go ahead and say, let's say this is your word. This is like a tokenized sentence that you are trying to work with. This is an example. Let's say that is tokenized sentence. And then you can loop again, right? This is the standard way of just looping instead of going for this to that and all those things. So just loop again. That is for every word in your word list, right? Go ahead, merge it again with if statement. So check first of all if the word is a stop list. If it is not a stop words, then grab it, print it, save it, use it, right? If it is a stop word, exclude it. Does that make sense? And so by that, you are left with some filtered words, right? That you now save as filtered word. And so in that case, you have only, so example, normally I always encourage that once you have downloaded and all this, just put this in separate cells so that you don't need to be downloading all the time for so just put this in separate cell. You don't, once you have downloaded it once and you have loaded it once, you are all good. And then you can always use it anytime you need it. So you only have, this is an as the filter. You're only left with example because all of these are not stop, they are just stop words. This is the most important word there. So this kind of thing can even be good for a summarizer. For example, if I'm teaching and say, okay, hello everybody, this is prompt engineering, blah, 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 blah. This is an example. I'm saying too much. I don't have to do all of that. I can be like, hello everybody, this is prompt engineering. Example. You see, I will still convey the message, right? So, and then, you also want to remove noise, find a ways. Noise is kind of subjective. You have to know how you want to remove your noise. Any other thing that is not relevant, you don't want to carry luggage of text and do processing. So for example, you have this text is A123 is transforming the words at OpenAI, right? So you need to know a little bit about regular expression, read about it and understand it. It helps you a lot to clean out your text, to achieve something great with that text. So, for example, and all you need is just import regular expression. It's called RE in Python. So once you do that, and then you can use the sub method to say, all you are saying is that you say, still use regular expression for your substitution. So you are saying there are rules about the regular expression to say, okay, whenever you find any of this, right, this square means something. It means any of the elements. And when in the square, you start with add. Regular expression is a language on its own. I'm not going to teach you. But if you're interested in maybe going forward, working with natural language processing and prompt engineering and things like that, you have to learn what are those things you do in regular expression. And it's very straightforward. You can learn it in 24 hours. So, for example, the square means something. It means either of any of the characters in it. And then when it starts with the carat symbol, you are saying negate. That is, for example, if the carat symbol is not there, we are saying anything from A to Z. Any letter, any characters from A to Z, capital or small letter, right? And a space, but this will be like disjunction. That is, you are saying either this or that, right? If it is in brackets, then you are saying all of them together. So, but anyway, so you are saying any of these. So whenever the correct is not there, you are saying wherever you find any letter A to Z and so on, replace with nothing. But that's not what we want. We want to replace anything that is not letter A to Z. And so you will put carat to negate it. So we are saying for as long as it's not an alphabet, replace it with an empty string. Does that make sense? Great. So we are saying, take our text. Whenever you find anything that is not an alphabet, remove it. That is our own code. Instead of relying on some tokenization, I mean on some stop word removal and everything. This will help you to also do some additional cleanup for those things that your stop word removal has not caught. And so you are able to go ahead and then it removes everything that is not alphabet. All the numbers are removed. Like I said, regular expression is really very powerful. If you are in the business of prompt engineering, natural language processing, and everything, you can't do without it. So now we have this exercise that I will leave you with, right? And I want you to start by reading that text file. Read your own text file, right? Read your text file, clean the text. And when I say text file, I don't mean this is OpenAI, is your text file. That's the only thing that is contained, right? At least have a document that you upload using all that we have learned so far. Upload a file and everything. And so tokenize it into words, right? And then create a function, Python function that removes stop words and punctuation from that string, right? And then use the claim that tokenized text to construct a triple prompt, a simple prompt for generative AI model. Because of time, I provided the solution, right? But don't look at the solution. Try your hands on it first. You don't have to use exact code that I use. Just try your hands on what we have done. We will share the video also with you all so that you can go back and play it and get that. So, any questions so far from within or outside the internet? Okay. So we will, because I have like less than 30 minutes now before the next person, and I will agree that we will have to stretch our leg. But so I want to finish 20 minutes earlier. I mean, like 10 minutes earlier, so that we can stretch our legs before Professor Othman can take over. So now we have so while doing that, we want to talk about OpenAI, and I've added this to the notes, and we also upload a slide. And we all are dedicated people. I was so impressed by the amount of my colleagues that are here, honestly. The thirst for knowledge, people from different fields and everything, collaboration and all those. So I would really just leave you to decode this by yourself. We already know what OpenAI is, and I got that from the survey also that I took. So but the bottom line is that we want to look at being able to use API. But unfortunately, OpenAI, as great as it is, especially when you have the subscription, even myself as an AI expert, I'm afraid about where the future is taking us, right? Because if within the past 5 years that generative AI evolved, you can see how much transformation has been done. It's still not yet perfect, but I can see it getting perfect, right? And so in that case, that's why I said the future of, we have to get hold of the future of prompt engineering as soon as possible. So now, but like I said, it requires a paid account. We will continue with conversation on the WhatsApp group. So for people that are interested in looking at how they can use, if maybe you can afford it. So I want everybody to be able to I want everyone to be to benefit from this. So because of that, we are not going to be using OpenAI, but we can start a discussion in WhatsApp if you're interested in using OpenAI API, because that means you have to have a paid subscription and use the API key. The key, that's the secret key, which you will be using to have access to their programming interface. API is the application programming interface, whereby you can pull their data. You can use their model raw and have access to the inside things. Now, we are not here to although this is how it begins. We are not here to use OpenAI Playground, though so in OpenAI Playground, you can just go ahead and enter your need. A 5-year-old can do that. Actually, I see little kids now, they don't even want to ask their teachers questions anymore, even in elementary school. They don't want to ask their parents. They first of all go to OpenAI, or now it's no longer Google. So now, so we can take it step further. So we can take it step further to say, we talk about the prompt engineering and everything, but we want to be able to see, being able to automate the process. That's the beauty of it, right? Being able to, because that's where the computer come in. So now I'm not going to talk about OpenAI, but I want us to talk about free options for prompt engineering. There is ChatGPT, which I said, but again, it doesn't give you free option for OpenAI, for API call. And we need to be able to we want to be able to write Python code and let it integrate instead of just asking OpenAI to help us solve our assignment and all those things. So we want to be able to use something that is free using Hugging Face, transformers, right? All of them use similar architecture, the transformer architecture, right? Some of them are smarter because they are exposed to more knowledge. That is, they are exposed to more data, right? They have learned so much, right? And some of them are smarter in certain domain. For example, if I want to boast now that I'm a doctor, I will not be boasting, I will not be struggling with a medical doctor, right? Because I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a doctor because of my academic qualification. And I know my lane, right? As we say it in Nigeria. So I cannot say because I'm a doctor, I want to now compete with a medical doctor. That is their domain. Likewise, a medical doctor cannot come and compete with a computer scientist unless he is also trained in that domain. So the same thing with the AI. Many of them are trained with specific domain. So which means they are smarter in certain domain than some other domain. And that is why I love the move that is happening in Nigeria now, because, especially in Africa now, because our data is still very sparse. Many of these AI that we deal with, OpenAI and so on, ChatGPT, they have been fed with too much data that is not local to us. It is our responsibility now to find our own version that will be smarter than their own, so that we can know when we are on our lane, we are the smartest, right? And when they are on their lane, they are the smartest. But right now, we are leveraging on general, right? On what the general has to offer. We can have, in fact, you have seen, you can agree with me that ChatGPT is fantastic, right? It's amazing. But you cannot imagine how amazing it would be if it has a version that is trained with your own local data, your dialect, your education, one that can even teach your grandmother computer science by teaching them in Yoruba language, by teaching them in Igbo language, Hausa language, and any dialect, right? But where is the data? It is our own responsibility. It is your responsibility and my responsibility. And I want to say thank you to the Director General that is already facilitating something about the Python group that will be working on this. This is what I'm expecting us to be doing, right? And I hope that within 365 days from now, we will have that smart GPT or whatever name has evolved, right? That is staying on our own lane as fellow Nigerian and smarter than any GPT in the world when it wants to, like, because it is our own, right? So, and also, and again, feeding all this with what is already international, instead of asking it to solve our problem all the time, right? We can also let other people get solution from our own domain, right? So, of course, because we are using now a new library, and that needs to be installed, right? So we go ahead, we are going to be using the transformer architecture, so we want to install it, the transformer. So once we get that installed, and then we are going to be needing, in the transformer architecture, we need what we call the pipeline, right? So that is the program that supports us in transformer, in the transformer library, the transformer package, to give us what we need. There are other things that you can import, but in this scenario, we are trying to get the pipeline program, because that is what we need for that is what we need for our large language model for this. So now, talking of the model, there is a lot of retrained model that ChatGPT, that has been provided, courtesy of Google. And so, like you already know, we always want to start by loading an instance, right? By going to that class and say, get me an instance, get me like something I can work with so that I can bring it to my code. And so we use that pipeline and we pass the parameter, right? We pass the parameter to say, okay, and of course, we have to assign it to a variable if it has to be useful in our system. So we're saying in our pipeline, right, what we are interested in, you specify the model you are interested in. And, you specify the actual model. If you don't specify, actually, only one parameter is what you need to go straight, but the default will always be used for you. Sometimes you don't have enough bandwidth because these models are sometimes really very big. So sometimes you don't have enough bandwidth to load the model. And maybe you're just interested in one quick task, right? You can just go ahead and say, okay, use default if I have, if that will be enough for me. Or specify the model, right? And so once you go on, so you are saying, okay, specify the model. And if you, tomorrow I will show you more about the transformer architecture and all the other parameters, some of the great parameters that you can use here, right? And so we are saying what you need is something about text generation, right? And that is the name, use it as it is, right? And this is the model you want to use to generate text. And that's it. Like I said, if you don't tell it the model, right, that you want to use, it's still good with it, right? And so the next thing is that since you have decided that this is what you want to do a text generation, right? And then you are now going to go ahead and say, okay, this is what I want you to do. This is what we do with the playground, to say, okay, describe the importance of AI in education, and the ChatGPT will go on to be telling you what are the importance of AI in education, right? So, but we are saying this is the prompt. You don't have to label it prompt. Just give it an identifier to say, okay, maybe prompt 1, prompt 2, this is your prompt. So I have a list of prompts, right? So we're saying this is the prompt that I want to feed to this pipeline, to this text generation pipeline, right? And so whenever you want to get the response, you call the generator, you make the generator, you call the generator function, right? So you are saying generator. So the generator will first of all take a text, which is your actual prompt, right? And then there are other parameters again that you can there are other parameters that you can also add to that. So you can have, like, for example, maybe you want, because this is free anyway, so but you still want to reduce the length of the text that you're interested in. So and then how many sequences? Normally it does different sequences. For example, the default is 1, right? So for example, so it does it in sequence before so that it can now whenever it wants to generate, it gives it behind the scene. You have a lot of options going on, and then it gives you the one that it thinks is the most appropriate, right? So, but because of our time, we're just going to deal with this for now, so that my colleague can take over after 10 minutes, actually 5 minutes. So as you see now, because I didn't supply a model, it's using the default, right? And then it goes on and loads the model. And then what makes you think about